This session of the Archdiocesan Assembly is officially in progress. And this might be a spacious room, but that's no excuse for sitting so far away. Come closer. As you notice in the book that you received, my remarks themselves are taking up 22 pages, and then the statistics go on to finish on page 43. And since we have enough things to talk about, I'm not going to read the whole thing and put you to sleep. However, I thought I've written in the past beloved of this sort at varying lengths. For some reason, this particular year, I felt compelled to write more fully an overview, as I see it, of what our diocesan life looks like. So I'm going to make a few comments. And I'm going to tell you that what I wrote here was written over the period of 2 weeks in the course of plenty of interruptions. So you may detect that there's a lack of flow. Well, that reflects my life. There's no flow in my life. The other thing is that because it was written over 2 weeks with constant interruptions, there are a lot of things that are not in this set of remarks. But, in fact, our life together as a diocese, I would say, is described in these 20-odd pages as less than the tip of an iceberg. Our life in this diocese is now so complex and so full and so active. It's been years since I have been able to keep up with anything like keep up with it. And as you'll see from Father Alexander's words about himself, I resorted to chancellor abuse. Because he's half-time rector now of the cathedral in Ottawa. He's half-time dean of the cathedral in Ottawa. And he's half-time rector of St. Herman's in Edmonton, which really means that he has 2 full-time jobs plus being chancellor. So you see what I mean about chancellor abuse. I have a lot to...
Bishop abuse, not chancellor.
Well, I asked too much of this chancellor anyway. And God is merciful, we're both still alive somehow. I want to point out also that in the statistics, there are lots of statistics which I've given here. And if there's something the matter with it in a couple of places regarding the format, that's the fault of the translation from my antiquated programs to the modern programs in use here. But you're not going to read in such detail anyway. These details are also only a kind of a vague outline of what our life is like together, and my life in my various travels. Well, it's mostly not explained. It's not possible to explain unless you have almost as much time as I've had to put into this to hear about it. So, I'm going to make some simple comments. In the first place, I want to follow the order of my words by giving thanks to God that His Beatitude Metropolitan Jonah expressed his willingness to come to us when he was asked to speak on the theme of this assembly. Because the theme of this assembly is at the root of our life, and it's the part of our life that we most quickly forget as Orthodox Christians. The most disturbing thing for me as a bishop is how comfortable we are getting to be in North America, and how happy we are to live in middle-class Canada with all of the cozy comforts that go along with living in middle-class Canada, and we forget about people who are suffering. And we forget about our responsibilities besides that. I heard, just for instance today, we have lots of needs and hopes, certainly. But I heard just the other day that there's now a big, giant flood someplace in Moldova in Russia. And they're starting to be a collection, and we're being asked by the Russian church in this diocese to be the funnel for money collected to be sent to the church there to help the people who are in the flood. So, and of course, we're doing it, and there are people who are going to give. But as much as we're doing what is necessary as... Okay, just a second. Does that do anything? Okay. As much as we might... See how quickly I forget the vocal lessons I had on Saturday night. Well, that was Sunday night, sorry. As much as we are sometimes ready to give to these emergencies, there are people right under our noses who need Christian compassion. And it's our responsibility to give that to them because the Lord sends them to us. So, I'm grateful that His Beatitude is going to be speaking to us about our responsibility, because He can do that much better than I. God gives him that gift. I'm just going to pass by these headings. That's the simplest way, and it'll stop me from blathering too much and talking as if I read the paper. Many of you will have noticed that the strategic plan was posted on the diocesan website a couple of weeks ago, some days after I received a copy of it. I did this because I felt it was necessary for us who are expected to make some sort of a contribution in terms of insight, prayerful consideration, and opinion about how we can go about things as the Orthodox Church in America, to have some time to know what we're talking about. Because when you read a document such as this, which is very important, cold, and then trying to say something, you don't have time, I think, to do it in as prayerful and serious manner as possible. So that's why I did that. And I didn't ask any permission to do it. Sorry for the attitude. So, now that you have seen it, and Father Michael Alexa will be coming to make a presentation on the subject, God willing, you will be able to give some helpful contributions. I've had a number of phone calls, nevertheless, from people who have read the plan, especially, and they are people who know about strategic plans and so forth, and they say this is a really good one. The trick is how to implement it. And that's where your vision will really come into play. Maybe there are ways you can refine the plan, because the plan is only a plan. This is not some 10 Commandments sort of document. It's a living document that is supposed to change and grow as we try to offer this plan to the Lord and respond to His directing us how to live it out. You heard me, most of you, talk about sainthood and sanctity and our misconceptions about it enough times, so I won't repeat everything I've written here concerning Saint Arseny. And I've already addressed my concern about secular attitudes, which are connected with our being so comfortable here and forgetting our responsibilities to the Lord and putting Him first in everything. And we come to page 8 here. On page 8, there's this section called Admitting Mistakes. I've seen a lot of this happening, especially with our government in recent years, in which the government apologizes for the mistakes that are made 100 years ago by somebody else far away in another time, and so forth. And such apologies seem always to be hollow and empty. We ourselves are very reluctant to say sorry for the things that we actually ourselves did. We are very inclined to play the blame game and point the finger at somebody else. As if we don't make mistakes. So I'm here to tell you that this bishop, who's been around for 23 years, spent his life making mistakes, and my sister who is here can attest to that fact. I still haven't stopped making those mistakes. And there are mistakes that I make and have made that affect our life together, because this is the way things are for Orthodox Christians. We make mistakes, these mistakes affect our lives. So there are lots of them, and if you point out any more than I know, please tell me, and I will be prepared not only to apologize, but also to try better to repent of my short-sightedness and, well, I do suffer from my astigmatism, and you can have spiritual astigmatism too. No focus. And it's written about in here, how my life lacks focus. So, I myself am telling you that I do make mistakes, and nobody should ever think that I don't, or think that I don't. Because I know very well how far short I do fall from the things that the kind of bishop that I really ought to be for you. That's another reason, of course, why that intercessory prayer list has been being circulated for a number of years. And why I'm grateful to Lorraine Greer for reviving it. It's not in publication yet, but Lorraine is rebuilding this intercession list. Why did the intercession list fall out of publication for several years? 2 reasons. 1, an almost completely absentee bishop. And 2, no communication with anyone who could keep the list current. Because the bishop is the only one at the present time who's able to provide the information to keep the list going. So you see, anyway, the bishop is less absentee now, and is making every effort to make the absenteeism less in the future. I'm going to, well, some of the things are self-evident are written here. I want to underline because there are all sorts of misunderstandings associated with the move of the office, that it's the office that is moving. The bishop stays where he is. Only the office is moving to Ottawa. Okay? If anything else happens to the bishop, that's God's will, and he will direct it in the future. One thing at a time. And even if the bishop had an idea of moving to Ottawa, on where and with what, I would be in some broom cupboard somewhere in the city, no doubt. So, all things in due time, as the saying goes. So, I'm telling you that I love to live in the countryside. I write it right here. But my life is not my own. My life is the diocese's life, because as I write also, and I've been saying it for 23 years and people still don't catch the drift, that the bishop and the diocese are one. There's no distinction between the bishop and the diocese. There's no distinction between the bishop and his administration. And I can tell you that nobody believes me, or very few do, because that's how people contribute. If people think that there's something to do with one of us bishops, oh, here, they can have something, you need something. It's okay. People are generous and it's nice. But if we need a photocopier, oh, you got enough money? And I still remember one time there was a collection. I'm telling tales, but I still remember a collection that was being made at one time, 2 cars ago, for the bishop to have a car because the previous one was complete. Well, Father Alexander and I were driving on the 401 in this old Buick, and it went in the middle of 401, and we managed to coast to the side, and we had the fun of being towed in a tow truck for 300 kilometers. So, in response to that, one parish council person, when having this subject raised, said, "Nobody ever bought me a car. Let the bishop get a real job and get his own car." And that's why I know how things really are.
Which parish was it?
Which what?
It's not my parish.
I'm not saying...
Tell us the parish.
No.
Don't tell us the person, we will find out. Don't tell us the
That's going to remain a mystery, Father. Well, you're too much of an detective. I say nothing. God has provided us with a vicar bishop. And this vicar bishop has already done a lot in supplementing the absolutely necessary parish pastoral visiting in this diocese. He is helping us to come back to about a quarter of what parishes used to be able to experience in terms of a bishop's presence in the diocese in the course of a year. So I'm trying not to abuse him too badly, so he'll last a while. But Ladike Irene, as he has not only been a good visitor, but he has also provided an extra perspective on our life in the diocese, which is extremely constructive. So don't stop praying for Ladike Irene. Okay. Staffs, well, they're going to produce their report. I'm not going to say everything about staffs. The St. Tikhon's Archdiocesan Steward, which a lot of the diocese still doesn't know about, I understand. Anyway, St. Tikhon's Archdiocesan Stewards are people who committed and commit themselves to regular giving to supplement the budget of the diocese so that we can have some resources that are absolutely necessary that we can't afford otherwise. And we can't afford it otherwise because we still didn't get the drift of proportional first fruits giving. First fruits to the Lord giving that are written all over the scriptures, and we somehow have myopia when it comes to those passages. If we paid attention to the Lord's directions to us about how we should be offering to the Lord the first of everything, we wouldn't have to have Stas supplement. Anyway, we have Stas supplement, and Stas supplement has been very helpful to increasing the viability of our work in the diocese. We have a secretary who is able to put order in the diocese, and we are in our record keeping and so forth. It's never been as good as it is now when he only started. And then, on top of this, the Stas people are trying to provide money more, yet they're trying to find other ways to increase the number of contributors so that we can support seminarians and so that we can subsidize missions. And missions are what we are all about, and it's our missions that are always complaining and crying, Vladika, I need money! Sadly, well, I think I better stop, because I already know I'm going on too long. One last thing, or two last things. First last thing is that the clergy will have experienced a little bit about the draft text of the Divine Liturgy of St. John Chrysostom with the rubrics about how to serve a hierarchical liturgy. It was used on Sunday to begin with, and it was referred to today, and copies of that are available for just over cost purchase. It's the cost of printing and a couple of bucks at the Archangel's marketplace. Correct, Father Kali? That's where? Yeah. So you can get those spiral-bound books. This is a draft text, and we want your responses, not only about the matters of translation, but also how it looks and how it's usable, so that eventually we can produce a book that serves our diocese and is usable, not just for a reference text. The last thing I'm saying